We want to welcome you for another visit to the North Carolina State University Arboretum. Our visit today is going to be a little different than many that we've done in the past, where we focused on individual plants. The Arboretum is perhaps most famously known for its testing and trials of thousands of new kinds of plants for the evaluation of seeing how they will grow in this climate and their potential for use in the landscape industry. We also do displays to show landscape uses of plants, the ideas of design that homeowners can take home and use for themselves. And the theme that we're going to be taking a look at and discussing today is that of color in the garden and color combinations to work with, color themes. And probably the most famous of this kind of a garden was first created in England by a woman known as Vita Sackville-West at a garden called Sissinghurst. Thousands of people visit this garden each year to see the all-white garden that she did there, and there have been many copies of it around the world. And at the Arboretum, we have our own version of the all-white garden, which was designed by one of our students and today is maintained by a very enthusiastic volunteer, a young woman by the name of Deborah Harvey. The white garden plays on the concept of white in many ways. White from flowers, white from foliage, softened in many cases with grays of various kinds. It may be through a painted building or through foliage, this kind of thing as we take a look at it. And so we're going to go along and look at some of the themes and different ways we work with this. For example, as you enter the garden, there's an arbor here with a evergreen vine on it, which normally you might think of just using green foliage. Here we've used a white variegated evergreen foliage on a plant that also flowers at another time of the year with white flowers. We have woody plants. For example, the evergreen oak here has gray foliage, a selection made particularly for that. A silver-leafed pear on the wall, a plant that Vita Sackville-West used in her own garden. Or even things like roses. We have a wonderful rose called Nasturina, which flowers all summer with fragrant flowers and makes a great addition as a woody plant. We can also bring in temporary types of color. For example, this Caladium, a type of bulb that is grown through the summer and then goes dormant in the winter and has to be overwintered inside. But here we bring it into a container in the garden and it gives us an impact of color wherever we want it. When this fades, we may take it out and put in, for example, white pansies to go through the winter as a type of color there. We also do use a great many perennials, Easter lilies, Shasta daisies. Most of those are spring and early summer. And by the time we get into this time of year, we're down to using annuals for a real blast of this impact of white. For example, here we have the spider flower, a plant known as Cleome is the scientific name of it. And gardeners are usually more familiar with it as a pink or a lavender kind of flower. White is available with a little bit of hunting, and one of our happy discoveries is that this one will reseed itself in the garden. It comes up every year. All we have to do is thin it to leave the plants where we want, and it'll bloom for months as we go through the summer. There are more familiar things to the average gardener though. For example, Impatience, Petunias, periwinkles. These are all very common annuals that are available at any garden center in the spring and widely used and enjoyed across the state. We find that using them in combination works very well because Impatiens and periwinkle tend to be a little slow taking off in the spring and slow making a real impact of a mass of color. Whereas petunias are very fast, a lot of color almost instantly, but it's a nice combination because in the summer, when the heat and the humidity get really bad, the petunias begin to decline. They tend to go down about the time the Impatiens are really getting to be quite spectacular. And the Impatiens and periwinkles will then go ahead and bloom all the way until they're killed by frost, sometimes here as late as November. So good color impact of those in the gardens. We also tend to use woody plants here for types of color, and one of the best at this time of year is a Crape Myrtle. You can see the beautiful, spectacular flowers on this. It is a new variety that was released by the National Arboretum called Natchez. Not only does it have the fine flowers, it's also a hardier variety, it's disease resistant, it has beautiful bark as well. So the white garden is one kind of a color concept. Let's take a look at another garden and just show how you can take another color theme and use that. After the blaze of white that you've been looking at for the last few minutes, to see a scene like this gives you a striking color contrast. Here we've taken the theme of sort of the purples, pale lavenders, and that range of colors to give you an entirely different feel to a garden. Very cool, very restful. In this case, we've again used a wide variety of plants, and you could go out to your garden center and select when things are in bloom to find combinations that look good together. Again, things like petunias, salvias, impatiens, there are an almost infinite variety of things that one could take a look at. Another combination that is striking and was used by Vita Sackville West in her garden was a red and gold garden. And there are many other combinations that you could take a look at. We would invite you to come visit the gardens at North Carolina State University. Not only can you see, again, the thousands of different kinds of plants we have on display, but ideas about how to combine them, how to use them to make your garden a more interesting one.